Kay here with yet another great episode, video version of Write Your Best Book, the top 10 rated podcast created for authors by authors. On this episode, we have yet another special guest here on the show, Ricardo Fayet, co-founder of Reedsy. And we're going to discuss how to work with book promoters to increase book sales. But before we dive into this topic, I want to ask you to please hit the subscribe button. Yes, we're new, we're small, but we have lots to offer, a lot of great guest hosts coming up, and you don't want to miss a single video episode of Write Your Best Book or our other playlist, which has 10-minute clips on all things writing to help you write your best book. Also, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to ask my loyal, wonderful listeners and viewers to please follow us on all social media platforms at Write Your Best Book. We always follow back and we work hard to bring you daily insightful tips, tricks, and advice to help you write, publish, and sell your best book. And if you want more in-depth advice, sign up for our free email newsletter by visiting writeyourbestbook.com. When you sign up, you'll get a free gift from us, our author planner, which helps you walk through all the steps of launching your book, creating your writing schedule, all the things you need to plan out as an author. And finally, if you like what we bring you here on the podcast, please leave us a comment. We'll turn your comments into a question that we answer on our how-to playlist. All right, so let's forget about that and talk about book marketing. I know that's what you're here for. As most of you know by now, self-marketing it's a necessary evil. Even if you're lucky enough to land a book deal with a traditional publisher, 5% chance or less. You see, traditional publishers have little to no budget set aside for any authors, except for those who are already making them millions of dollars. Kind of doesn't make sense. And we already know that if we self-publish, there is simply no avoiding self-marketing, as it's the only way to increase your chances of selling thousands of books or more. It's not enough to simply write a great book, though it is the first step, the essential first step, and slap it up on Amazon or KDP or Ingram. If you do that, then sit back and just keep hitting the refresh button on your KDP royalties page. You'll die of boredom, and you'll never see any results. Every author must put in some of the basic work to market their own books, even if marketing doesn't come naturally. A lot of authors are afraid of coming across too pushy or too salesy. We see other authors all over social media hawking their books ad nauseum, and we're hesitant to overdo it like that. But there are certain tricks and tips you can put into practice to effectively market your books without coming across like a used car salesman. One of those tips is to consider using book promo companies. I'm not talking about a high-priced book marketing expert or publicist, though if you have the funds, go for it. I'm talking about companies that offer blog tours, sales blasts, cover reveal parties, and things like that. They typically don't cost a lot of money, and they can help increase exposure and get you even more reviews on release day. But that's just one angle to take into consideration when marketing your books. On today's episode, as promised, we have Ricardo Fayet, co-founder of the very popular website Reedsy, to discuss when and how to work with book marketers and how you can effectively market your books yourself without breaking the bank in the process. So without any further delay, let's dive into this episode and our chat with Ricardo Fayet. Okay, so here we have with us today, guys, just like I promised, we have Ricardo Fayet from Reedsy. So that's super exciting, isn't it? Thank you, Ricardo, for showing up and for being here today. We're so excited to talk to you.
No, thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast.
Of course. Why don't we start by just telling my listeners a little bit about you, your work with Reedsy, and how you and Reedsy help authors with their writing journey.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm one of the co-founders of Reedsy. We started around 5 or so years ago, or 6. Yeah, time passes quickly. And yeah, it hasn't really changed that much since we started it. And the core idea was really to build a place where authors could come and find all kind of publishing professionals they would need at any point through their journey. So we started with editors and cover designers, and now we have typesetters, book marketers. We're going to talk about them today. Publicists, author website designers, ghostwriters, and we recently added literary translators for all the main European markets. We might add narrators in the near future as well. So yeah, kind of a place if you need a freelancer at any point throughout your author career, you can go and find one. And then we've built a bunch of resources around that: a blog, free courses, a free formatting tool. So yeah, it's been a pretty nice adventure, and it's definitely going well.
Yeah, it is. And you all definitely, I think I've even seen this referred to as the Mecca for authors. I don't know how you feel about that term, but I think it's true though, because like you said, all your resources are free. They're there for authors to help. You've got tools. I've been following your website for probably about as long as you've been around, and I still discover tools that are in there that I didn't know were there. So very much, we all thank you on behalf of the author community for everything that you've done. It's very helpful. All right, so today, though, we're talking about, like you said, book marketers, how to work with a book marketer. I think one common dread that indie authors have is self-marketing. So why don't you explain first why it's so important for indie authors to get comfortable with marketing?
Yeah, for sure. I think the problem with self-marketing is that a lot of authors view it as, I have to push my book to readers. I have to go out there and tell readers, here's my book. And a lot of people are uncomfortable with that because a lot of people are not salesy, thank God. And all the more creative people tend to be often introverts, so they don't want to go out there and talk to people and be like, hey, buy my book. I mean, we all see, if we're on Twitter and we see all these messages like, here's my new book, buy my book, buy my book. That doesn't work, and that annoys everyone. So no one wants to be like that. But for me, like, marketing a book is not about that. It's about attracting readers to your book. So placing your book in a way that it becomes discoverable to readers, so that readers browsing Amazon or browsing an online retailer, or readers browsing Facebook, or readers talking to each other or being on Goodreads, come across your book in some way. Maybe it's a friend telling them about it. Maybe it's an ad. Maybe it shows up in Amazon search for a certain keyword. So that's what marketing is about. And the other thing that marketing is about is, once readers find your book, keeping in touch with them. Talking to readers, replying, answering messages, setting up a mailing list, maybe to interact with them, setting up a Facebook group. So I'd want all authors to think about marketing as not like pushing your book to readers, but attracting readers to your book in a nice way, in a way that feels good to them, and then interacting with them. We all pretty much enjoy talking about our books usually, so don't feel ashamed or feel worried about doing that with readers.
I agree. That's wonderful. Thank you for that. I've always recommended to my clients and other authors that I work with that they do hire a marketer or promoter, especially if, like you said, they're not really comfortable doing it themselves. For most of us, though, marketing doesn't come naturally. So how do we find, I think you said your website has some people you work with that are marketers. How do we find the right marketer or promoter or publicist for our book?
Yeah, that's really tough because, as you said, like, almost every author out there wants to find someone to take the marketing away from them and just do it for them, and that's unrealistic. Like, that's almost never going to happen. You're always going to have to do a little bit of marketing yourself.
Is that cost prohibitive, you think? Is that why it's never going to happen, or?
Yeah, it's cost prohibitive. You can, like, you only earn so much on your royalty. So unless you have a huge catalog out there and you're making several $100,000 every year, then you can hire someone full time to do the marketing.
True.
But to get to that point, you're going to have to do a lot of marketing yourself.
Right. That's true.
You have to stay in control. So yeah, my first tip for like finding the right marketer is, do not start by looking for a marketer, and instead learn about marketing yourself. So take free courses. We've got free courses. There are paid courses out there as well. There are a bunch of blog posts. Just do some research, when you're setting up your keywords on Amazon search, like how do I select KDP keywords? When you're selecting your categories, how do I select the best categories for Amazon? Like all the information nowadays is just one Google search away. And generally Google pulls up like pretty good articles up front, so authoritative ones. If you want to stick to websites, then there's Reedsy. We've got pretty much all the information on our blog. Kindlepreneurs got some great information. David Gogren's got some great information.
On the show.
There you go. And most of these people have books as well. So if you prefer reading books, you can learn that way. So my first advice, as I said, would be like learn about marketing, learn the basics, and then once you have an idea of like the basics, you can say, okay, I want to be running some Facebook ads for my new launch, and I want to hire someone to help me with that. That's something concrete. That's some particular service, some specific service that you can easily find someone to help you with. So if you go to marketing and tell them, hey, I have this launch coming up. I want this and that. It's a lot more powerful, and you have a bigger chance of working successfully with them than if you come to them saying, hey, I've got a launch coming. Please tell me what I should do. Do everything for me. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, and do your research, and then only hire someone for specific stuff. It can be a marketing plan. I have a launch coming up. I know a little bit. I've done my research, but I want someone to craft a marketing plan for me. That's, again, something specific that you can reach out to a marketer for. And then, we have them on Reedsy. You can ask for referrals. We can ask for referrals as well on Facebook groups. You can ask authors out there, like all these people who've written books or who have blogs on marketing. They get these questions all the time. Like, do you have someone I can recommend? Like Dave works with some authors as well privately, but he's probably maxed out at this point, but he can recommend maybe someone else. Same goes for me. I can recommend other marketers. So don't be afraid to reach out, but make sure that when you reach out, you sound like you've done your research. Because right now there's a lot of demand for marketers, and there aren't that many good marketers out there yet. So you need to show it's a bit weird, but you need to show that you're going to be a good client. Who's done their research, and who's gonna make it easy and like interact with the marketer, and all that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I hadn't even thought of it that way, but I like I like your answer, which is basically don't hire one until you get to do it yourself, until you get to a point where possibly, if I understood you correctly, you can then afford to maybe put the money into marketing. So, and I love the fact that I see, again, I didn't even know you had marketing assistants on your website. So check out Reedsy, guys. Even if we work with book marketers, authors still have to say, as you've said, that authors still have to do some marketing on their own, and should until that point. So what some of the best advice for authors when it comes to what they should be doing in conjunction with or without marketers?
It's going to be a case by case, but I think, as I said, you need to know what the marketer you're going to be hiring, what they're going to do, what they're going to be doing. Generally, I recommend doing a little bit of research and then hiring someone for a full marketing plan. And that way, basically in the marketing plan, the marketer is going to tell you, here's what you should be doing over the next few weeks and months before you launch your book and after you launch your book. And then you can either hire them to implement that together with them, or just do it yourself. Most of the time, I'd say if you're on a budget, do it yourself. They're going to tell you, okay, here's how you build a mailing list. You put a reader magnet out there. You put it on BookFunnel. You connect it to MailerLite, step by step. You can do that on your own. One thing that I'd say is you can outsource a lot of things, but I generally want to keep the communication with your readers to yourself, because it has to be in your own voice. If you have a welcome automation to your mailing list, you have like 4 or 5 emails that you send to readers who sign up to get your free novella, for example, you want that to be in your own voice. You want to be the one who writes those. You If you hire a marketer to do it for you, it's going to be in the marketer's voice. It's not going to be you. And at the end of the day, the readers that read your books, they get used to your voice. They're going to be able to spot whether it's you sending the email or it's like someone someone else who's written it. So always keep same. If readers email you, take the time to email back. It's not going to take a lot of time out of your day. I think even authors like Mark Dawson to this day answer their readers themselves. If you have a VA answering, it's not the same thing, you know.
Personal connection.
Exactly. One of the perks of being an indie author is that you actually own the relationship with your readers. Like you go direct to consumers, direct to readers. So since you own that, make the most out of it. Like be available to the readers. Again, receiving emails from readers, if it's generally going to be praise, so it shouldn't be a hard thing to do to just answer saying thank you. Here's another free book if you want, or do you want to join my advanced reader copy list? Yeah, there are a bunch of things you can do once you start building personal relationships. And I think the most valuable thing you can have is a really, really great relationship with 30, 40 readers who are going to, leave a review on every new release you put out there, buy your paperbacks, put them on their shelves, tell their friends about you, help you beta read, find stuff. That's probably one of the very best things that you can achieve marketing-wise, and you can only achieve that by being yourself and owning the communication with these readers.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's kind of what we can do, what we should do, if I understand you correctly, is basically start your own marketing by building a relationship with your readers and being personal through mail. You said like email newsletters, which we've talked about before on this show, and lead magnets and things. But what are some common mistakes on the converse here? What are some things that you see authors doing, maybe unknowingly still, but the mistakes that authors make when trying to sell their books to readers?
That's a thorny subject. There are quite a few. I mean, it's like, I'm going to say this, it's impossible to do everything perfectly. There are so many things. Like you have to have a great book, you have to have a great cover, metadata on Amazon, run ads. You're not going to be able to do everything perfectly. So there are two main things that I think authors cannot make a mistake on. The first one is the product and the packaging. So you cannot have a bad book. You may be able to sell it, but readers are going to stop reading throughout. Exactly. I'm working with some authors. It's interesting. Some authors who have like 4 or 5 different series out there, and we advertise book one. And we're able to get sales on these book ones in the series, But then all these series have very different read-through. Maybe there's one series where half of the people who buy book one read the rest of the series. And then there's another series where only 10% of the people who buy book one read the rest of the series. And obviously, you make a lot more money if 50% of the people read the rest of their series. And that's nothing to do really with marketing. It's got to do with how through the story you're able to pull readers in and make them want to buy the next book, like finish first the first book and then buy the next ones. So that's on the product side of things. Then the packaging, what I call the packaging is basically the online store presence, the page on Amazon, your Amazon book page, your Barnes & Noble book page, Kobo book page, etc. That has to be pristine. So cover design, again, that's probably the number one mistake I see is authors thinking
that a lot. So I'm happy to hear you say that.
Yeah,
you gotta have a good cover.
Exactly. I'm amazed that like authors are able to write such great books, and obviously they know that writing is hard. It's a skill, it's an art, it's a craft, it's something you hone over several years. But some think, hey, it's taken me years to write this book, but I can create a cover design. I can learn to create a cover design in just a few weeks, and I'm going to do it.
Yep.
That it just doesn't work that way. Just like you don't learn to play the guitar in a week, you don't learn how to design a cover in a week. It's all different skills. Same goes for editing. But weirdly, I think a most authors now know that they need to hire an editor,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of them still think, hey, I can do my own cover design. So don't do your own cover design. Don't hire a relative. Don't have your children draw it and then place some text on it. I've seen a lot of that. Hire a professional cover designer, experience in your genre. It's not just about having a nice looking cover. It's about having a cover that people in your genre are going to see and say, hey, this is my kind of book.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then the blurb as well, next to the cover. There are a lot of marketers on Reedsy who specialize in writing blurbs. So if you don't want to do it yourself, you can hire someone. It costs maybe between $150 and $300. It can seem like a lot, but then I see a lot of authors spending $500 on ads, and the ads don't convert because the blurb is not good.
Right.
So you can learn how to do it yourself. Again, a lot of information out there on blurbs, or you can hire someone. That's something easy that you can hire someone for. And then the reviews. That's the last thing on the page. That goes with like building relationships with readers first.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, these are things that you cannot make a mistake on. Basically, you cannot afford to have a bad cover or a bad blurb. Then everything else is kind of optional. You don't have to be running Amazon ads and BookBub ads and Facebook ads and building a mailing list and having a Facebook group and being on Goodreads. You don't have to do all that, but you have to find one or two channels, one or two avenues where you are active and that are successful to you. So maybe try Facebook ads, for a week, for a couple of weeks, do a lot of learning first, and then give them a try. If it doesn't work out, pivot to something else. What I firmly believe in is that Facebook ads, Amazon ads, and BookBub ads can sell pretty much any book. So it's not a question of genre or audience or anything like that. What it really depends on is the ability of the author, of the marketer, to use those platforms. I love Facebook ads, and I can sell pretty much anything on Facebook ads, but I'm not that great at BookBub or Amazon ads. David Gogren is great at BookBub ads and Facebook, but he himself says that he doesn't like Amazon ads. A lot of other people, if you're active on forums, you're going to see that they love Amazon ads and they have great results on there, and they haven't even tried Facebook or BookBub. Everyone's different. Everyone's going to have a different affinity with a different ad platform. So test those different channels and see what works for you.
I love it. All really good information. So thank you for that. And as you all heard, my dogs in the background had a little moment there, but that happens. All right. So to wrap it up, is there anything that we didn't already cover that you want to make sure my listeners learn about before we sign off for the day?
Yeah, one thing that I mentioned briefly, I think that's worth highlighting again is we've got over 50 free courses on what we call Reedsy Learning. They're all short email courses, 10 emails, one a day. It's just 5-minute read. It's designed so that while you're commuting in the morning, back when people were commuting in the morning, back in those times, you can just digest it, or over breakfast. You stay at home, but you have breakfast and you read it. And we have a course on Amazon ads. We have one on Facebook ads. We have one by Dave on BookBub ads. We have one on mailing lists. So you can learn about all these things pretty much without effort. Obviously, it doesn't teach you how to be the greatest Facebook advertiser ever, but it teaches you the basics. Mm-hmm. What you need to know to just go on Facebook advertising the next day and start putting together your first ad. So take advantage of that, and they also point to a bunch more resources that you can check out. So yeah, and don't be afraid of marketing. It's about connecting to your readers in the end, and that's the best thing an author could wish for.
So just to be clear, so the little mini 5-minute courses you were talking about, I may have just missed it, but how do we get those? Is that just on your website, or do we need to subscribe to a newsletter?
Yeah, you subscribe to the course basically. Okay, gotcha. And it's called Reedsy Learning. So if you Google that, or you go to reedsy.com/learning, exactly. Yeah. You get those. You can pick your course, and yeah.
Good deal. Well, we'll do that. We'll put a link in the show notes so that everybody can find it easily, since we talked about it. I think that's it for today. Ricardo, thank you so much for joining us. It was an honor and a pleasure to talk to you today. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, wasn't that really exciting? Thanks to all of you for joining us on this episode of Write Your Best Book, the video version. Wasn't it pretty cool to hear from one of the founders of Reedsy? Be sure to check out our show notes and the comments below and the description for a direct link to their website, as well as some of the resources that Ricardo mentioned during the show. And if you're in the market for an author coach or a book editor, don't forget, Write Your Best Book also offers these and many more services for authors. Email us at info@writeyourbestbook.com for information on how to get your free half-hour coaching call for free, or a free sample edit and quote for editing your book. Talk soon, and in the meantime, go write your best book.